Welcome back to Vintage Noise. This is your channel, and today we are getting into a car that, for so many people, really defines a golden era for Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about the W124.
The W124, produced between, what, 1984 and 1997?
It's just so much more than a car. It's this legend built on, I think, a kind of over-engineering we just don't see anymore.
Hmm.
It succeeded the W123, and of course, it's the car that officially became the E-Class in '93.
And the production numbers alone are staggering, over 2.7 million of them.
Yeah, that tells you everything. The platform was just reliable, it was adaptable, and it was genuinely brilliant.
So what we want to do today is really pull out some of the engineering choices, the facts that put this car so far ahead of its competitors when it came out.
And show you exactly why its reputation for being indestructible is absolutely earned. You have to start with the development.
Right. This was not a quick job.
Not at all. I mean, planning started way back in 1976. They were looking almost a decade into the future. The design chief, Bruno Sacco, didn't even sign off on the final look until early '81.
So 3 years before it even launched.
Exactly. The press launch was in Seville, November of 1984.
So what did that 8-year cycle actually get them?
It got them this almost obsessive efficiency. The aerodynamics were just groundbreaking. The W124 had a coefficient of drag, a seed, of just 0.28.
For the base models, right? The 200 and 200D?
Yeah, and you have to think about that number. I mean, that's a figure that a lot of modern sedans still struggle to beat.
So how did they do it?
A lot of it was managing airflow underneath the car with these, carefully placed plastic moldings. It was a huge deal for cutting down wind noise and, more importantly, for fuel consumption.
It's the kind of engineering that pays you back every single time you drive it. And they focus on these little details, too, that just made the experience better. I was really fascinated by what they did for visibility.
Oh, for sure, like the single windscreen wiper.
Yeah. Most people wouldn't even notice it.
But it was this eccentric mechanism designed to physically extend its reach as it swept, so it could clean right into the top corners of the windscreen, just maximizing your field of view.
And on the inside, the remote folding rear headrests.
On the saloons and coupes, yeah. You press a button, they drop down, and suddenly you can actually see out the back window. It's such a simple, elegant fix for a real safety issue.
They even thought about the neighbors, apparently.
Huh, yes. The neighbor-friendly rear door on the estate, the S124, it had this sensor-controlled servo motor that would just pull the door shut silently.
So no more slamming the wagon door late at night.
Exactly, just this quiet, automatic click.
And before we move on, we have to talk about the wheels. You see a W124, you instantly know it from those alloy wheels.
Oh, the 15-hole flat-faced wheels.
Yeah.
Of course. In Germany, they call them Gullydeckel.
Which means...
manhole covers. It's an iconic piece of design, isn't it?
It really is. And functionally, underneath all of that, the car was built on really modern principles, that rear suspension.
The multi-link axle. Yeah, they pioneered it on the smaller W201 just before.
So for those of us who aren't suspension experts, why was that such a big deal?
Well, in simple terms, it just keeps the tire perfectly flat against the road, even when you're cornering or hitting bumps. Before that, older systems would let the tire lean over and you'd lose grip.
So this gave it incredible stability.
Incredible stability, amazing grip, and fantastic ride comfort. It really was the gold standard, and it just lifted the W124 way above the competition.
So they poured all this engineering into the sedan, but the platform was clearly designed for more. We call it the W124, but that's just one code, isn't it?
Oh, it was an incredibly complex family. There were 6 other internal codes. Yeah, the S124, which was the estate, the C124 coupe, the A124 cabriolet.
And the really long ones.
Right, the V124 limousine, and then the commercial chassis, the F and VF 124.
The cabriolet, the A124, is just beautiful, but it was also historically important, right?
Massively. It was the first full Mercedes cabriolet since, 1971? A 2-decade gap.
And it wasn't just a simple chop-top job.
No, they didn't take shortcuts. It needed huge structural reinforcement. And they fitted it with this emergency gas-fired anti-rollover bar that would just deploy instantly if it sensed a flip.
That is classic German safety engineering.
It really is. And then at the complete opposite end, you had the 6-door limousine, the V124.
Co-designed with specialist slick bins.
Right, exactly. They'd add this 800mm insert. You'd see them as taxis or, luxury airport limos.
And they built a fair few of them.
Over 2,300.
Right.
And it didn't stop there. The commercial chassis, the F and VF versions, could be made even longer. The VF-124 added 650 millimeters.
Perfect for ambulances or hearses.
It just speaks volumes about the original design.
Mhm.
One platform that could be anything from a sleek cabriolet to a utility vehicle.
What's amazing is that while they were managing all these body types, they were also introducing some truly bleeding-edge tech. Let's talk about 4MATIC.
Yes, the all-wheel drive system from 1987. That was Mercedes going head-to-head with Audi's Quattro.
But it was a different approach, wasn't it? A smarter system.
It was. It wasn't always on. It used sensors, and when it detected wheel slip, it would automatically engage the center diff, send power where it was needed. It was automated traction, and it was way ahead of its time.
Let's get to the heart of the car then, the engines. At the launch in '85, the range was pretty standard, right?
Yeah, you had your petrols and your diesels.
Rah.
Everything from a 4-cylinder up to a straight 6.
But the real complexity, especially in Europe, came from emissions.
Oh, it was a minefield. Before you had universal standards, Mercedes had to offer different versions. ECE, which was unmodified, KET, with a catalytic converter, and roof.
Okay, roof is a term we should probably unpack. Why would you buy a roof car?
It was a pretty clever idea, actually. It stood for retrofit vehicle. You buy the car with all the necessary hardware engineered in, ready for a catalyst. But the catalyst itself wasn't installed yet.
So you could add it later.
Exactly. You'd often get a discount, and you could install the converter when the rules changed or the tech got cheaper.
Yeah.
It was future-proofing.
Meanwhile, the U.S. market was its own challenge.
Completely.
Hmm.
The EPA rules were so strict that Mercedes actually had to pull their diesels from North America in '88. The particulate filters they had to use were just not reliable.
It took them a couple of years to come back.
Until 1990, yeah, and usually with turbochargers.
Hmm.
But the real technical leap came in the late 80s and early 90s.
DOHC.
Double overhead camshafts. They started with the M104 24-valve engines in '89.
So for the non-gearheads listening, why did DOHC fundamentally change the way the W124 drove?
Well, DOHC basically allows for 4 valves per cylinder instead of 2. More valves means the engine can breathe better, and better breathing means more efficient power.
So when they fully switched over in '92.
The power gains were huge. The 280E, for example, got a 23% boost in power and torque over the older engine it replaced. It was just smoother, more powerful, and more modern.
And all of that modernization culminates in that big 1993 facelift.
A landmark moment for the car. The whole front end was redesigned. The grille was integrated into the bonnet, like on the big W140 S-Class.
And you got those different turn signals.
The pearl-colored ones, yeah. But the biggest change was the name.
Right. They flipped the whole system. The old 230E, 300CE, that was all gone.
All gone. The E, which used to mean fuel injected, now went before the number. E320, E500. And Mercedes said E now stood for executive class. It simplified everything and made the E-Class name permanent.
Okay, so we've talked engineering, we've talked family cars, but we cannot talk about the W124 without getting into the absolute performance monsters.
Oh, the V8s. They were really special. The 400E, which became the E420, laid the groundwork. But the true icon, the legend, is the 500E.
Launched in 1991. And this is where the story gets really wild, because Mercedes didn't build this car alone.
No, they didn't. This was a partnership with Porsche.
So why did Mercedes need Porsche to help build their super sedan?
It was a fascinating problem. Mercedes had the engine, the big 5.0-liter M119 V8, but it was physically too wide to fit down the standard W124 assembly line.
Huh. So they were stuck.
They were. But Porsche at the time was struggling with sales and had spare capacity at their Zuffenhausen plant. So they struck a deal. Porsche would re-engineer the front end and then hand-assemble every single 500E.
That is an incredible collaboration. A Mercedes sedan, largely built by Porsche. But that wasn't even the ultimate version, was it?
Not quite. If the 500E was the fast executive, AMG created the ultimate sleeper,
The E60 Air MG.
E60. They took that same V8, pushed it out to 5.9 liters, and got 381 horsepower out of it. It would hit 100 kilometers an hour in 5.4 seconds.
And get this, that was actually faster than the flagship S-Class with the giant V12 engine.
It was a mid-sized sedan that could outrun the King. And they did AMG versions of the coupe and estate, too. It has proved that chassis could handle absolutely brutal power.
So given all this, when did the W124 finally pass the torch?
The sedan was replaced by the W210 in 1995. But the platform was so good that the other models, they kind of lingered on. The estate ran until '96.
And the Cabriolet was the last one standing.
It was the longest survivor, yeah. Sold all the way until July of 1997.
And there was a special edition for those final cars in some places, wasn't there?
There was the 1995 Masterpiece Edition. It was basically a final run-out model loaded with unique extras. A gear knob that said Masterpiece, special door sills. Just a nice little send-off.
Ultimately, though, after all the tech and all the performance, the legacy of this car really comes down to one thing: reliability.
Absolutely. It was famously rugged. There's real data on this. In a 1995 German Automobile Association survey, the diesel version was ranked the most reliable car in its entire class.
So it wasn't a fragile luxury car, it was a tank.
It is a beautifully engineered tank.
So when we look back, we see this one car that managed to evolve through so many changes. Carburetors to DOHC, rear drive to all-wheel drive, and even these high-performance V8s built by Porsche.
And if you think about that sheer range from a 72 horsepower diesel taxi all the way up to a 381 horsepower AMG monster, all sharing the same basic rock-solid integrity, it really makes you wonder. Well, does the W124 maybe represent the highest watermark, the peak of adaptable analog luxury engineering, right before the digital age took over everything?
That is a question to think about next time you see one of these icons silently gliding down the road. Thank you for joining us on Vintage Noise.